Hello there guys, and welcome to yet another how-to video by LNARFan4472. Now, as you've seen by the title, today I'm going to show you how to be installing post grouping, pre-BR era speed limit signs. These signs were mainly employed from the 1920s all the way through up till even the 1980s. In the 1980s they started introducing whiteboards with black letters on them. With a red outline, much like the speed limit signs you see when you're driving on the road, except the ones for trains, they were much bigger, much more clearer, and much more lower to the ground, so the drivers could obviously see them. And they had directional arrows which would apply to a junction. So say if the driver just passed a 4-aspect signal, the signal was showing yellow, and there was a junction indicator for left. He would then observe the next speed limit sign, and if the speed limit had an arrow on it, that speed limit would then apply to the junction that he would then be proceeding through. So say he just passed a signal, his feather's on, he's got a single yellow aspect, and he's seen one of these signs that says 10 miles an hour, and he knows he's going to be turning left, and the junction indication was left. He will then have to comply with the 10 mile an hour speed limit. But if he was going straight ahead, then he would not have to comply with this particular speed limit. He would then be shown a different sign, or he could continue on at the current speed he has already been shown by a previous sign. So that's a basic overview of how the signs work on the railways and how these type of signs work on the railways. Okay, this how-to video is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to have any nice to have items on here because there's so little items that we require to do the job. So this is all we need to do the job. Obviously we need the speed limit sign itself. You can grab some of these from Smith's Model Components. They do have a website. It's not a very sophisticated website, but they do sell some pretty good kit. Trust me, you can either get some kit built stuff or you can get some ready built stuff. Some of the stuff they do is really, really good, so make sure you check them out and pick up some of these signs for yourself. I recommend getting about 2 or 3 packs. Speed limits are diversified in the packs for you. So this is a whole, and the arrow is separate. You have to cut that out and cut that out, so there's none of the fiddly assembly stuff to do. Yeah, the only thing to do is to cut it out, basically. That's all you need to do. And you can pick up a pack for about £5. Seems a little bit dear, but it saves you a lot of labour time, trust me, because imagine if you had to build these yourself. God. If you're not very experienced, you're going to want these ready built. And I'm one of those people who likes my things ready built because they are of a much higher quality as opposed to if I was going to do them myself. And it just saves you the time, and the effort to do them. If you're experienced enough, then by all means go to a website where you can get some that aren't already built. But I would recommend these, especially for newcomers and those who don't have much time to their layout. Next is super glue. As much as I would love to lay this on its side, I can't, because if I were to lay it on its side, then the glue would clog up the thread and I have to chop the top off. Luckily this opens fine, and I've had this for a few months. Any super glue will do fine. Super glue 3. This particular super glue is called, oh, that's a complicated word, cyanoacrylated adhesive. Pardon me if that's not correct. I'll just give you a close-up of that, see if you can understand that. If the camera will focus. There we go. So yes, that adhesive. We will refer it as that adhesive from here on out. Be advised, all super glue is irritant. Use it with extreme care. Do not put it anywhere near your eyes or your mouth, or don't put one of your 2 fingers together like that. As fun as it is, it's quite a pain, and the super glue does stay there for quite a while, so best avoid it. So this is very hazardous, be very careful with it. Right, as for our final tool, this is a requirement. You can't do it without these. Basically, you're going to want a little drill, a little hand-driven drill like this, only really small. If you get this particular one, when you get it, you will notice that some of these really small drill bits will not actually fit inside. You've actually got to pop the drill bit holder out and flip it around, and there's then a smaller drill holder on the other side of that. So that's how you get the smaller drill bits in there. because I was about to call them up and ask them what was going on because it wasn't compatible with these particular drill bits. But anyway, I found it out just by swapping it around. And of course, you're going to need the drill bits as well. These are really tiny drill bits. I'll give you a close-up on those if you like. They're really small, perfect for drilling holes in sleepers so you don't get your track all wonky, and perfect for the job that we're about to do as well. Because we're going to drill the hole in the baseboard, obviously, and just insert the sign down into the baseboard. Okay, let's crack on. Okay, so here's how we sort out our speed limit sign in preparation for it to go into the baseboard, obviously. Now, obviously, if you were just making a bog standard speed limit for straight ahead, you wouldn't need this little arrow on here. That's a junction indication to show you how fast you'd be able to go if you were turning into a particular junction. I explained that earlier. But basically, I'm going to have to stick one of these on because this is for a left-hand turn. This is for a left-hand turn. So obviously, make sure it's all correct before we glue it in place. Now, basically, how you're going to do this is you're going to want to find a piece of cardboard or something that's slightly higher than ground level, and just put the speed limit, put the actual number figure on top, and then it should be on an angle like this. So underneath there's a gap. Obviously you can't fit your fingers through there or anything, but make sure, so long as it's off the ground, then that's not a problem. Now, this is the easiest method to do this. So what you want to do is you have to take your glue, which is right here, and you just want to gently go above it and just put a droplet, literally a droplet, onto there like that. 2 if required, just to get a nice even spread. Okay, double check it's not going to stick to the baseboard, because that's the last thing you want. Just give it a little move around just to make sure it doesn't stick, because the blob will sometimes actually stick between the gap. Seems a rather unprofessional way of doing it, but it's the best way to do it, trust me. There we go. See how we've lost the glue now? So that's no longer going to be fused to the baseboard. That's the last thing we want. Give it a little bit of a blow, nothing too vigorous. And that should fuse there nicely. We're just going to leave it a couple of minutes. Okay, here we are, we're back. It's been a few minutes later, so this should be all stuck and on. There we go. Now these are extremely delicate, so be really careful with them. There we go, our 10 mile an hour sign with a left hand indication for the speed limit. So just set that down again and move that out of the way. And we shall go and install that on our baseboard. But first, we need to drill our hole. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so just before we head over to the baseboard, we're going to choose an appropriate drill bit for this operation. And now the one that I would recommend is the third from the last. So take that out, put your foam somewhere safe, make sure the drill bits are in, you don't want to be losing any of those at all. And then upon turning the drill bit holder around so you get the smallest one, we're going to insert our drill bit into the end like that. There we go. Wrong way. Once it's in securely, just tighten it up like you would a normal drill. Make sure it's tight, not too tight. Probably as tight as you go, it's not going to break. And there we go. Our drill bit is now ready to drill a hole in the baseboard. Okay, so here we are. This is where we're going to place the sign. The junction in question is just a bit along that way. So we're going to put the sign about here, so the driver has time to acknowledge its presence and act accordingly. In other words, reduce his speed. And there's one other thing we need to consider that other people forget about though, and that's clearance from the running rail to the middle of here. So we don't want the train to go by and whacking the sign, and nor do we want bits like buffer beams or bits of coaches poking out and also hitting it. So we need to decide on some minimum clearance. Now, my appropriate minimum clearance, tested with the biggest piece of rolling stock I have, which is a Mark IV intercity coach, which is pretty much the business in terms of size on the railway. It's the biggest thing you can get, so I know that everything will fit through. It's the widest, tallest, and swings out the most on bends. So my appropriate clearance is 2.4 centimetres, and that 2.4 centimetres will be measured from the nearest running rail. So that's what we'll do. So we'll measure, put that down as best we can anyway, 2.4 centimetres, just there, and that's just there. But we've got two sets of running lines here, so we need to measure in between these, and if it's in excess of 5, then it's not a problem. So here we've hit a snag. It's actually 4.6 centimetres. So we're going to divide 4.6 by 2, which is 2.3. So we'll place it 2.3 centimetres away from the nearest running rail. Therefore, it is then in the middle. And I'm sure that compromise of 0.1 centimetres won't hurt us too much, considering this is a straight bit, or a straight piece of track in professional terms. Therefore, I believe we shall have no problems. But fully assess the situation with your biggest piece of rolling stock before you carry on. Okay, so now we're going to drill our hole, but first, of course, we have to mark it out to make sure we're drilling it in exactly the right place. So I've decided it's going to be here. Don't need a pen or any fancy gizmos for this. Just 2.3 centimetres from the nearest running rail. Make sure your power is off when you do this, of course. Okay, that's about there. Make sure your ruler is straight. Then going to put our drill next to 0. Look right above to check it's the right place. Take your ruler away, keep that there, do not move it, and just start to drill. Now it may look a bit off because there's ballast on the centre track, but I can assure you we are on target. You're going to go quite far down. That'll do. May need a fair bit of force to take the drill bit out of the ground. So that is now ready. Keep an eye on the hole, it's easy to lose. So that is now ready to receive our speed limit sign. Okay, so here's our hole. There's nothing around it, nothing's fallen inside it, not that much would be able to get in there anyway. So now that hole is now ready to receive our sign. Double check, it is the sign you want. It's just there. For the benefit of you guys, it's a 10 mile an hour with a left hand arrow on it, obviously to tell the driver that if you're turning left, you must slow down to 10 miles an hour. What I would advise you do is check for fit first and trim it down to size. To get an appropriate size, or to see if the size is okay, if you have any scale models, 176 scale people, just line them up next to it, and it should be slightly smaller than the 00 gauge person. If you don't have any people, it should be the height, or slightly above the height of a red buffer beam on either a piece of rolling stock or a locomotive, preferably a locomotive because locomotives are all built to the same standard. Rolling stocks did vary, but red buffer beam on a locomotive will be a perfect guideline, absolutely perfect. Most buffer beams were red anyway. Right, so our sign is just here. we're going to insert that into the hole. Be very careful, don't be very careful. I advise you to, if it's struggling, don't force it, just slip it in by grasping it from the bottom. And there we go. Let's just test it, see if that's right. So yeah, that's just about right. That's just about right. That's just about the perfect size. Slightly taller than that gentleman just there. See if it'll go down any more. No, that's as far as it'll go. So don't force it, otherwise you will bend it. Don't be afraid to roughen it up a little bit, because most speed limit signs weren't always in the best of conditions. But it's ideal to not try and destroy it. So if you're happy with that, which I'm absolutely adamant that I am, we shall grab our super glue. Double check. What I'd advise you do is run a piece of rolling stock on this track and the other, if the same situation applies to you, and check if there's plenty of clearance. I've already tested that before filming commenced, so I know this is perfect. And there we go. That will sink into the hole, and that will be there permanently. So now, locomotives coming on this track will now know that they need to slow down for the entry to the yard up ahead. And that, my friends, is how to install a 00 gauge speed limit sign.